Good morning, YouTubers. Charles here with Hellcat Entertainment 1904 Ludes, bringing you another how-to video with the 5th gen Prelude. Today's how-to, we will be installing this TrackSpec hood vent. Got to keep them hood temperatures and engine bay temperatures low. Yes, let's see what we got. Some of the tools that you'll need to get this job done. I have a Dremel tool with a cutoff wheel, so that way we can get to cutting the carbon fiber hood. We're going to need some markers, so that way we can mark off the template. TrackSpec definitely provided a template for us. You will need the hood vent of your choice. The hood vent also came with some black rivets and some other rivets and washers to mount it. You'll need drill bits, so that way you could drill the holes properly to make room for the rivets. Of course, with drill bits you'll need the drill. Got the rivets tool here. We'll be needing the tape measure, so that way we can measure out and center the vent. You don't want that thing looking crooked and eyeballing that thing. Extra cutoff wheels just in case we break one, and the handy dandy TrackSpec instructions. Within this TrackSpec kit, it came with this lovely vent, and this vent is powder coated black on both sides. It's very lightweight, looks very well built, very durable. TrackSpec did provide some instructions on how to get this done, did provide the proper mounting rivets as well, and they did provide a template. Now, one concern or one quote-unquote complaint, if anything, that I do have is this template is not the greatest. I don't know if the camera will pick it up or not, but you'll see there's some thick punch-out holes that end there that doesn't line up with these other little punch out holes. There's like a little punch out line here to the side, but it just seems like this template is very odd. This area here to punch out is thicker than these areas here to punch out. They don't connect to each other. The only two solid pieces that kind of line up with the actual mounting rivet holes of the vent itself are these two here, which I guess are going to be the most important anyhow because those are the center lines. But it just seems like there could have been a little bit more thought put into this template. The template is definitely going to work. You can see here the corners, like they don't, I don't know, there's like a little hole here to mount for the corner and to make the lines and everything. And I mean, it's definitely going to work. It's perfectly cut out. It is the perfect shape of the vent itself, but it's just, I don't know, the interior cut lines I feel could have just been done a little bit differently to make it a little bit easier for users, like have this whole center piece be able to come out and maybe trace it. I'm not sure. Once we get to it, I'll see how intuitive it actually is, but just looking at this template, I just feel that it could be made a little bit differently to have this process be a little bit easier is all. So first and foremost, to kind of prep for this, you could do one of two things. Some people will want to take the hood off the vehicle and set it somewhere like inside a garage and do all the cutting and do everything inside a garage while it's not on the vehicle, so that way you don't make a mess in the engine bay. What I'm going to do, however, is I'm actually going to cut this with it on my car, and to do so I'm going to put some covering down on the engine bay, so that way when I do finally actually cut through, I'm not getting all the particles and debris on my engine. So I'll be covering this, then putting the engine down, or the hood down, and I will be doing the cuts while it's here on the actual car itself. After the prep is done, the next step I'm going to need to do is measure out and find the center point and find out where exactly I want to get this vent mounted. You can see here I have a good guide with my hood pins. So the hood pins, when opening the hood, you can see that they are actually on the front cross member there, the upper radiator support. I definitely don't need the vent here near the cooling plate. I need the vent to start at the radiator fans and go back a little bit, because the idea is to vent this bad boy, the PLM header that's causing the extra heat in the engine bay, mainly at idle. I don't have too many issues with it while actually driving, but just at idle I noticed the engine temperature does creep up a little bit faster than it should. I mean, the cooling fans turn on and keep it cool so it doesn't overheat or anything like that, but having this vent right above it, I do feel is going to be a really good addition to just help keep those temperatures a little bit cooler while the vehicle is idling, and hopefully it's even going to keep it a little bit cooler while driving. So to figure out a center line for this hood, what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure from pin to pin. I'm going to draw a line, probably put some blue painter's tape down and find the center point and mark it. And then from up top here, I'm going to go from the end of the hood, probably around here, to the end of the hood, and then once again find the center point and mark it. And then I'm going to be able to draw a line from up top, center point, down to the lower center point, and that will definitely give me the centered angle that I want to put the vent. And then after that, I'll be able to mount the two center points, figure out how low I want to put it, and be able to measure the other points based off of that using the template. Alright, so I got my center point figured out here. Essentially, I thought I was going to be able to go from pin to pin to measure the center point, but literally I just hung the tape measure into the side of the hood, measured all the way to the other side of the hood. I did let the tape measure rest right above the open hood latches here and put a dot where the center was. Then up at the top, I went from here to there with the tape measure literally resting straight right at the bottom of the top of the hood here to find the center point, and I marked it off. Then I took the measure from here, let it drape all the way down. That way I could draw a line going up. So that is going to allow me now to use this template. So this bigger hole right here and this bigger hole up here are going to actually be the top and bottom rivet point on this vent. You'll see here though that there are rivet points in the middle as well, so we're going to cut two separate sections. We're not going to be cutting this completely as one hole. It's going to be two separate sections. Now, as I mentioned before, I started punching out this template, and again, I'm not really a fan of the template. See how this line's a lot thicker than this line, and then we got, you know, just a bunch of different lines instead of just being one whole piece. So what I did notice is there is a point right here and there's a point right there. So instead of me punching out the whole template, all I'm going to do is I'm going to get some tape here in the general areas, and I'm going to mark the center point in the middle, the center point in the middle. I'm going to mark this point here, and I'm going to mark that point there, and then using a ruler or my tape measure, I'm going to draw a line to connect it. Now once again though, I am not going to cut all the way to that hole. I need to keep this middle piece solid, so I'm going to stop and draw a point right where this little template piece ends. So the line is only going to go from there to there, but I am going to measure it using that hole, so that way the angle is proper. And then once I get it the same here, from this point to that point, stopping right there, I'll then be able to draw the straight line up and do the same thing on this side. So then I'll have my two pieces that I need to cut. But I'm not really a fan of this template. Literally all that would be needed, they should have just did a point there, they should have done a point there, a point there, and a point there. Otherwise, I would feel just let this whole centerpiece be cut out, punched out, and then that way you could just trace it, the whole thing inside. But either way, I mean, it gives me enough information of where the points are on the actual vent itself to do my calculations, to make my drawings and my lines, so that way I know what I'm going to cut and what I'm not going to cut. And with it having the center points, you literally only need those two center points to make sure that it is going to be straight and it's going to be centered on the hood. I actually kind of moved it so it doesn't look like it right now, but just to kind of mock it up, that looks pretty darn centered. Alright, I'm getting a little bit closer and almost ready to cut. So this might explain a little bit better what I was talking about. We had the main rivet points, which are these darker circles. which was the center point of the template. All right, and then we had the little dots above it and below it. So I should have made this one a little bit darker so you can see it on the camera. But boom. And then I marked off the little corner dots. So I don't need all of that because I don't like how they're different sizes. I don't think if I trace that it's going to be a straight line. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a ruler from this dot to this dot and draw the line, but making sure I stop there, and then do the same thing from that center dot to that dot, drawing a line, stopping there, so that way I don't cut out this middle piece. I'm going to repeat the process here using this center dot to that dot, draw the line, stopping on the outer dot, and then from the center dot to the outer dot, stopping on that dot. Then I should be able to connect this outer dot to that outer dot, that dot to that dot, and then that dot to that dot, and I'll have my two pieces that I'll need to cut out. So I'm going to get to making that right now. I'll show you when it's done, and then that way I could cover my engine and begin cutting. Alright, so I got everything drawn out. Now one thing I did, because they always tell you measure twice, cut once, that way you don't have any errors. I made my own lines as I described, and then I wanted to punch out the rest of the template and compare to my lines to the template. One thing I noticed I'm glad I did not cut yet is because this line from the template actually has a curve to it. Same thing here. So had I had cut already, I would have cut too much off of the top, and I would have cut off not enough off the bottom. So I would have ended up having to shave this down a little bit more, and I don't know if I would have had the same strong lip left for the rivets to go to mount this thing. The horizontal lines were on point, so those are good because they're nice and straight, but I definitely would have had issues. So when using this kit, don't do what I did originally, measuring the dots and just cutting a straight line. I could kind of see now why they did what they did. I still don't understand why they didn't do solid lines. I guess maybe just to make sure that the template doesn't fall apart on you. And I do think it's pretty weird that we have a thick bar here, thin bar here, thick bar, semi-thick bar here, so there isn't really any continuity with the size of these either. But definitely you do want to use the template, because for this particular TrackSpec vent, didn't really pay that close attention, but there is a slight curve to these. It's not a straight line, so we will need to make sure that we do have the curve going on through here. So you can see, like I said, it would have been off by a bit. All right, but now I know which ones I'm going to cut, and I need to just lift the hood up, cover underneath of the engine bay so I don't get all this dust and debris on the engine bay, and then I could begin cutting. All right, got my trusty Dremel tool, and we're ready to cut. Alright, so I got the first panel cut all the way up top. I need to do the second piece of it right here, and then we're going to have to get underneath the engine underneath the hood, because they do have the extra supports underneath it that we're going to have to cut as well to get this piece completely off. So let me finish cutting and then we'll go to the bottom side. Alright, so looks like we got it cut all the way through up top. Just need to go underneath and see what we have going on. Alright, so you can see where we have majority of it cut, but we're just going to have to cut through the main support and cut through some of these other supports here, and then cut through the main support back here as well. So once I get those all cut, that whole piece should come off and we should be able to drop in the grill, the vent. You need to remember that this line is going to go all the way through, so this is going to get chopped, but the center piece up on top of the hood is not fully cut out. There needs to be a center strip there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these two side pieces first. I'm going to see if I can kind of press out the pieces that we had cut away from this. I may just be cutting off the support all the way, but I may be leaving it. So I just need to kind of try to see if I can get these panels off before and assess the situation of the center to know if I'm going to cut the whole thing off on the center or if I'm just going to be trimming some side pieces off of it. But let me start by cutting straight from here and on that side and see if I could press these panel pieces off. It off. Let's see if I could just peel the pieces off the center support before carrying on any further, and I'll see what we got going on. So after assessing the situation a little bit further, I think what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to cut off this whole support piece. Otherwise I'm going to have to shave the sides, and then there's only going to be a little strip of it left anyways, which I don't think is going to offer much, if any, support at all. So I think the whole thing just needs to be cut off. The hood is not attached to it in the middle, so that strip of the hood shall remain, but we'll definitely get it cut off and then we'll go from there. Voila! There we have it. There's definitely no turning back now. I legitimately just cut a hole in my hood. Eek! Let's drop in the vent and let's see if it fits. I mean, in theory, right? In theory. All right. So the good news is it fits. There's no holes or anything on the side. I didn't cut too far. I am glad that I did decide to actually use the template because of this curve, and the curve fits nicely. It centers up perfectly where I had the rivet hole marks, and there's plenty of room to make the rivets all the way around and even on the center. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the tape off here. I'm going to kind of wipe it down, clean it up a little bit, There's a little bit going on here on the inside that I'm probably going to kind of shave and clean up a little bit. I want to see what it looks like from underneath. The good thing is we are going to be painting underneath the hood Galaxy, complete Galaxy underneath the hood, and make it look really cool. But I'm gonna clean it up, set this thing back on without the tape and without the cardboard boxes, and see what we got. So before I got carried away removing all the tape, I did remember I do still want to keep the original rivet hole marks so I could center everything based off of those marks. I will be drilling holes there later, but again, I just wanted to kind of see the fitment. Now, looking at this already, I want to say I definitely scored, because this is exactly where I wanted it to vent, is right above this header, and it's going to be pretty nice having it there, just so that way, like I said, all the heat that resonates from this header can just go out that vent directly. So let me get the vent put on there, grab it from over here. Let's set it back in the hole. And center it back on the marks. I think that is going to look really cool, especially when I have the XK glow lighten it up, so you'll be able to see all the different colors in there. So dope. You can see the ramhorn header, you can see the Mishimoto radiator and fans from in there. Really cool. So yeah, I think it fits. I think it fits really well. I'm going to attempt to lift the hood up now with it on. It's not mounted any way, shape, or form, but just to take a peek underneath. It's looking pretty cool. I'm going to figure out something to do with the beams that got cut off there. Not sure what I'm going to do with it yet. I still need to wipe down under here too, but I'll figure something out. But either way, I mean, the whole underneath of this hood is going to get repainted. I don't know if I'm going to try to like seal that up to make it solid, and that way there's no holes, or if I'm just going to leave them and just paint it so that way it's not white like that. Overall, I'm really happy so far. I really think this is a cool addition. Definitely a little bit different than the other vented hoods that are already pre-made for this vehicle. I always want to try to do something different. All right, before I get too far ahead of myself, I did a few extra steps now. Pretty much with a 1/8 inch drill bit, I was able to drill the 2 holes for the rivets to mark the center points of the vent itself, and that way the vent now is sitting where it should in place. Having the rivets slightly pressed in, I don't have them completely done yet, but they're just sitting in the holes right now, holding the grill in place. And I'm going to drill a hole through each one of these. I'm going to make sure I press it down to the hood so that way it lines up properly. Drill the hole in each of those holes so that way it can make room and be ready for the rivets, even on the center here. So that's the next step. Once I get all the holes drilled, I don't know if I'm going to rivet it just yet until the hood gets painted underneath. I haven't decided if I'm going to paint underneath the hood first or if I'm going to rivet this and then paint underneath, but I think I'm probably going to have the hood painted first and then finish riveting this. So after I get done drilling the holes right now, that's just going to be the place setter for everything, and then I will come back to this video after I get underneath the hood painted and all galactified. Alright, so like I said, before we get to finally mounting the hood vent, we're going to be galactifying the underneath of this hood. Got Kenzie in the process of doing the paint work right now before I throw the final clear coat and flake on it. So you can see all the different colors appearing here. It used to look like this, and now it's going to be more like this. But I will be adding a final gloss and flake to it. There's going to be some stars and some wonderful galaxy goodness. All right, finished up galactifying under the hood, and this thing looks bitchin'! Time to throw a clear coat on it, seal it up, and then get to riveting that vent. All right, so the Galaxy is done. Now I just need to throw a clear coat on it. I'm going to go with VHT high heat engine enamel, just because this area here is potentially going to get hot, and I just want to use a higher temperature clear coat to help protect the paint. Alright, so we got the first layer clear coat on it. I did dust it a bit with this Roth Pfingster green flake, so that way you can see that it does got a green shine to it. Step back here, you can get a better picture. But this thing looks dope. The video actually does not do it justice. Alright, got the hood back on the car. Got the vent in place. Next step to do is to just rivet it in, and should be able to call it a day from there. Alright, so the kit came with the rivet, and it also came with the washer. So what they anticipate you to do is they want you to put the rivet in through the hole, and then underneath on the other side of the hood they're saying that you should put this washer on, hold it with pliers, press up on the pliers while you're pressing down with the rivet gun and setting this rivet. So we'll see how well I could do this. So the kit came with 6 fully black rivets. And a bunch of other rivets that aren't fully black. I did set the option with TrackSpec that I wanted them all black, so I'm not sure why I didn't get a full set of all black, but the main 6 are all black. The good news is these rivets are actually sitting pretty flush, or pretty tight inside the holes, so as I lift the hood up I don't have to worry about these things popping out easily. They're actually in there pretty snug and pretty tight. I just put all 6 of them in place right now just to hold the vent in place. That should help with juggling everything else, because rivet guns are not small, so I'm gonna have to clamp this down while pressing up from underneath onto the washer for added support. Woo-wee. This thing finished, all rivets in place. This thing is sitting very flush, no gaps, nothing. Really good fitment. And underneath, oops, get this hood open. Underneath, got her all galactified. It is looking beautiful. Rivets with the washers. And I believe that is a wrap. Alright everybody, well this concludes the video. Hope you liked what you saw. Big shout out to TrackSpec for making a quality product here. Rivets, install, everything. Very straightforward, very easy to do. Use the template, guys. Even though the template did not look that great to me, definitely good that I decided to measure twice and cut once, because it could have been a fiasco. But all in all, very happy with the look of this. Can't wait to actually start the car and actually check out my engine temperatures at idle. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of heat coming out of this vent when I'm at idle. But all in all, if you like what you saw, be sure to subscribe, hit that like button on this video, and stay tuned for more, because I'm going to keep them rolling.